welcome to 7 Facts, the channel where you'll get to discover little-known facts about every single country on this planet. In today's episode, we'll talk about the US territory of Guam as part of the series dedicated to the United States of America. But before we get into it, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to my channel. In return, you'll get to explore the hundreds of videos that are already up, plus 2 brand new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Guam is a territory of the United States, an unincorporated one. This means they are not exactly part of the Union, but rather they are only governed by the federal government. Guam is often labeled as the place where America's day begins, because they are relatively close to the international dateline, which by the way puts them in the western Pacific Ocean as part of the Micronesian region. But how did the United States come to own such a far-off place? Well, they practically won Guam from Spain in the Spanish-American War of 1898. And since then, with one small exception, America governed Guam. We'll talk about that exception too in a couple of minutes. You might think that Guam is alone, a solitary American territory in the middle of nowhere. But that's not really the case. Just 200 kilometers to the northeast are the Northern Mariana Islands, which is also an unincorporated American territory. In fact, Guam is one of the Mariana Islands, it's just politically a separate entity. If you do find yourself going to Guam though, be wary of the distances. Tokyo is 2,500 kilometers away, and Los Angeles is 9,800 kilometers to the east. If you want to travel from Europe, keep in mind that London, for instance, is 12,000 kilometers to the west. Even though it's in a remote place of the globe, early European explorers did find Guam. In fact, one of history's most famous explorers, Fernando Magellan, is the one who spotted this small piece of land in 1521. He was greeted by the locals in very fast canoes that appeared to be flying over the water. The inhabitants, curious about these strange new people, boarded the ships and took whatever they could lay their hands on, but were otherwise friendly. For Magellan, Guam was the last friendly place he saw, because just 1 month later he was killed in a battle with some locals in the Philippines. December 7, 1941 is a date which lives in infamy. That was the day the Empire of Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, thus inviting the United States into the Second World War. But for Guam, it's also the day Japan invaded them, just hours before the Pearl Harbor attack. For 2.5 years, Guamanians were subjected to beheadings, forced labor, rape and torture. It is estimated that as much as 10% of the population died during the occupation. In the end, American soldiers managed to take back Guam and expel the Japanese forces, and the war was over. But not for everyone though. Soichi Yokoi, a Japanese soldier, did not surrender to the Americans until 1972. He hid deep in the island's jungle, living in an underground cave near the village of Talafofo, and spent 28 years there. His indoctrination was so powerful that he later revealed he had actually learned that the war was over in 1952, but was too afraid and ashamed to surrender. The capital of Guam is Hagatna. Until the mid-20th century, it was the island's main population center, but today, it's the second smallest of the 19 Guamanian villages. During the Spanish era, the city became the administrative center of Guam. Remains of buildings from that period can still be seen in the Plaza de España. Incredibly, by 1940, Hagatna had grown to about 10,000 people, containing nearly half of the island's residents. But when the American forces fought their way back against the Japanese, the city was heavily damaged, forcing many residents to settle somewhere else. Today, only 1100 people live in Hagåtña, less than 1% of the total population. Nevertheless, it remains Guam's capital. Guam is the closest landmass to the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on the planet, which is all the way down at 10,994 meters below sea level. Of course, you don't need to dive that deep to enjoy a scuba holiday. Apra Harbor on the west coast is home to several easily accessible shipwrecks. These include the SMS Cormoran, a German merchant trader which sank during the First World War, and the Tokai Maru, a Japanese freighter that was sunk by an American submarine on August 27, 1943. What's really neat about this is that the two vessels sank nearly at the same spot and are touching on the seabed. That of course means that underwater enthusiasts can explore them on the same dive. Despite being a relatively small and isolated island, Guam is pretty popular throughout the world. In fact, according to the World Trade Organization, for every resident of Guam, there are 8 tourists. Monaco has a similar ratio, so that's quite the accomplishment for Guam. But how can you not want to visit this tropical paradise? The sandy beaches alone are incredibly welcoming. Except that it's not really sand. Most of the beaches are covered by soft grounded coral. The daily average temperature all year round is 27 degrees Celsius. Come on, you gotta love that. So these were 7 facts about Guam. I hope you enjoyed the video and will leave a like and subscribe. Share your thoughts and comments downstairs and do check me out on Facebook or Twitter. You can offer your support even more by visiting my Patreon page and becoming a patron. I hope to see you next time. Bye.